There have been new developments, a delay in the Ripple SEC lawsuit, but what will this mean for XRP's price? Well, we are going to look at that on today's Frugal BC. By the way, guys, if you like these kind of videos, please hit that like and subscribe button. Now, remember, you don't have to smash it. You can actually just press it gently, and it works just fine that way too. As this is not an Algorand video, briefly want to shout out our sponsors, Non-Fungible Domains and Marcus Aurelius. Check them out in the description below. And we have channel memberships starting at only $1. You can get videos before anyone else, so check that out in the description below. But let's get to today's show, because we want to talk about this XRP SEC lawsuit. It's been a weird ongoing mess, to be honest, and recently there's some delays in the process, and what this means for XRP, we're going to dive into that today. So, well, why don't we just take a look at this here? All right, so this news comes from Crypto Times, and of course everybody is writing about this. Ripple SEC case update: appeals delayed until August in the XRP lawsuit. In the latest development in the Ripple SEC case, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, filed a status report requesting the appeals court to hold the appeals. The status report was filed pursuant to an earlier order to hold appeals after parties reached an agreement to resolve the XRP lawsuit. Lawyer James K. Fillion, in an X post on June 17th, revealed that the SEC has requested the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit Court to pause appeals. This in light of the pending motion for an indicative ruling in the district court. Now, SEC will file another status report in the Second Circuit Court by August 15th, delaying the long-running lawsuit further. And this is going on, just to back up, by the way, guys, this goes back to December 2020, when the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission sued Ripple Labs, its executive chairman Christian Larson, and the CEO Brad Garlinghouse. And so SEC had actually alleged that Ripple had raised over $1.3 billion since 2013 by selling XRP tokens in an unregistered securities offering. Now, the key thing here, by the way, the lawsuit actually dropped XRP's value by 50% when it happened, but in July 2023, there was a partial victory for Ripple. Judge Annalisa Torres ruled that XRP itself is not a security. And then in May, the SEC and Ripple reached a settlement. The agreement included returning over $75 million held in escrow to Ripple and vacating the court-issued injunction. So the penalty was reduced to $50 million, ending the legal dispute. However, obviously it's still ongoing, as you can see. And so on June 12th, Ripple and the SEC renewed their indicative ruling to dissolve the injunction in the final judgment and release $50 million from the $125,035,150 civil penalty held in escrow account to the SEC and remaining amount to Ripple. The settlement, the SEC's shift in crypto policy, and a desire to avoid further litigation were given as reasons to modify the final judgment, which is what Rule 60 calls for: exceptional circumstances. The timeline for the resolution of the XRP lawsuit depends on how Judge Torres responds to a new indicative ruling under Rule 60, said legal expert Sherry. Who's legal expert Sherry? What a weird post. So anyway, this news actually led to XRP trading at 224, about a 4% increase. I'm not sure that's tied to this. We saw a market bump yesterday anyway, and I'm just not sure that's a reaction to the news necessarily. But what does all this mean for the price? Well, some analysts are actually very bullish on the price after what has been happening with XRP. So why don't we just go ahead and see what they have to say. And this is from the Crypto Basic. A prominent market analyst says XRP holders are about to make a lot of money, suggesting the market has not yet priced in XRP's victory in the SEC lawsuit. Crypto Beast, a notable market commentator, made this assertion in a recent disclosure amid the current market uncertainty. Despite XRP's pullback from $3.40, I don't know why they don't add the extra zero. It's $1. But anyway, the ongoing bearish consolidation around $2, CryptoBeast insists that XRP has not yet hit its top for the cycle. And I think that's probably true. I think a lot of coins haven't hit their top yet. I think very likely we're going to see this in the second half of 2025. If not, to me, that means the cycles are broken, because we haven't really seen a huge altcoin top. And Bitcoin has behaved strangely compared to past cycles as well. So it hasn't really followed the typical patterns. It has done pretty well, but not like we have expected in bull markets in the past. Anyway, this aligns with projections from analyst EGRAG, maybe EGREG, who recently dismissed claims that the top is already at 340. I think that's probably correct. Specifically, Crypto Beast presented a weekly XRP chart highlighting an extensive symmetrical triangle structure that points to a more expensive uptrend for the crypto asset. I think that's likely. I don't know about the I'm not a big fan of technical analysis, to be honest, and you guys know that who watch the channel regularly. But I do think just in terms of general macro cycles, we most likely have another leg up. So I would keep my eye out for that. But let's keep in mind 240 even itself, 220, 240, wherever it is right now, is still quite a bit more. It's still 4x from, around the 50-cent range that it had been trading at for a long time. Yeah, so the thesis here is that XRP's lawsuit victory is not yet fully priced in. One of the developments boosting CryptoBeast optimism is Judge Elisa Torres's July 2023 declaration that XRP is not a security. Despite XRP's 90% rally following this ruling, CryptoBeast insists that the market has not yet fully priced in the development. So I think it's important to look at the chart here. This is the weekly chart, and if we look at this started around October, November is when we saw this big pump up, which I think we all remember that, right? We remember how a bunch of utility coins, including XRP, Hedera, Algorand, all pumped toward the end of the year, leading into Thanksgiving, basically. Nice Thanksgiving for us. I think it's really weird to frame it as a 90% rally after the ruling, because the ruling came way back here in 2023. We did not see a rally until here. So I find this analysis a little strange. It's such a weird way to word it when you say, where do they put that? Yeah, despite XRP's 90% rally following this ruling, CryptoBeast insists the market is not fully priced in this development. It's weird to say, it's really odd to say that this is related to, when was that exactly? July, yeah. So we're actually talking of like a year and 3 months or so, 4 months maybe, after the ruling. You have this spike, and we're going to pretend like this has to do with the ruling. I don't think so. Now, it may have given investors more confidence because of that ruling when prices were skyrocketing. Maybe some people would have held off knowing that XRP is still considered a security. The fact that it is not a security now probably gave people more confidence. So it may have helped this candle, but it's weird to say it sparked it, because I have a hard time saying, oh, this ruling happened, and in fact, it was July. XRP actually declined. One of my theses is that macro cycles influence crypto far more than news events. They can be short-lived, these little spikes, but a candle like this, and then we've been kind of consolidating around that range. So it's been sitting around, it's actually $2.17 right now. Yeah, we did hit a high, flash high of 340, as far as a good solid candle. Although this is the weekly chart, so to be fair. So I would say the bigger factor to me is what's going to happen in the macro, like how are alts as a whole going to perform. And I think XRP could do very well because now it has the cachet of having, frankly, kind of defeated the SEC. The SEC, you couldn't really say the SEC won, and typically the government tends to win its court cases. They just generally don't lose, and that's because they tend to play games they're going to win. In this case, they kind of FAFO, right? They screwed around and found out. Got to keep it PC for the channel, So I would expect, a rally in the second half, but I think that's because that's what altcoins are going to do, because that's where we are in the macro cycle. And who knows what this will turn out. I think XRP will do well compared to the others. It did well in this one. HBAR did really well, Algorand did really well, but none of them performed quite as well as XRP in this period. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear what you guys think about XRP, how it's going to do in the next 6 months or so. Like I said, I really think that's where we're going to see some price action from a lot of coins, if altcoins do what they typically have done in past markets. Now, last time some stuff pumped early in the year following the halving. Other ones took a little longer. Some were actually in the whole next year, 2022. So hard to say how this is going to turn out, but I'd hold on to your bags on XRP. I'm certainly going to, along with my other alts like Algorand and HBAR. And yeah, I think we're gonna have some good times ahead. So again, let me know what you think. If you have not hit the like and subscribe button already, I would love it if you do so. Don't have to smash it, just press it ever so gently, and it works just fine that way too. Otherwise, I'm Frugal BC. I hope you're doing well out there, and I will see you in the future.